is what you do. You go at home and you work out, I don't know that chord. How does this riff go? What do I do? Practice. Rehearsing, you come to group and do a rehearsal. First rule of rehearsal, don't make any sound that isn't what you're rehearsing. I bet you've all been in, especially in rock groups are the worst, especially the guitarists, and they just start playing in between the song, or they insist on playing the riff of the song 100 times before you even stop it. You can rehearse without playing any music at all. But it's when the group gets together to do what you're trying to do. Another bit of advice is, when you're doing arrangements and people have ideas, obviously we all know the experience. If you're in a band of 5 people, then it isn't like 20% of the time talking and so on. But when you've got an idea, the most important thing to do, if you think, oh, that's quite a good idea, let's do those stops or that riff or something in the chorus or that harmony, try it. And often the ideas are good ideas because they're hard. And then after about 10 minutes, people get bored and go, ah. And you've given up the idea before you've actually heard it. Now, when you hear the idea, you might go, no, it doesn't work. So, really important thing, don't give up the idea until you've heard it. Then give it up if you don't like it. Another thing about it, so then that's there. And then a run through is something for a reason. You're doing it to show what you're doing to someone else for some reason. A sound check, obviously, you are checking your sound in your auditorium, however that goes. I would say if you've got in a band that's working a lot, we tended to use the same couple of songs for our sound checks, partly because they were songs that actually had high bits, low bits, vocals, all together, and so on in. But also, if you're doing it a lot, it's best to only get really sick of one song, because otherwise, if you actually do half a dozen sound checks, you'll be sick of all half a dozen of them. And it's quite important. A lot of people, when you're in a band, often they say, oh, we always do that, and what they mean is, I'm bored with singing it. Don't ever in a band, unless you want to leave the band, say, well, I don't like that song we do, because someone else will go, well, I don't know what you do, but I didn't say anything. And then suddenly everybody doesn't like one, and it's like the United Nations. 5 people have got a veto, and that's the end of everything. So that's my advice. And George also said, if you go to rehearsal, bring some paper, a pencil and a rubber. Now, I don't know what modern people do with iPads. How do you correct? Or how do you annotate? When someone's saying, well, what we want you to do is put in, how do you do that with an iPad?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So you can do that in you. Okay, great. But the most important thing, he said a pencil and a rubber. Because I've been a million rehearsals and people say, that thing, I think we should repeat the A minor the second time through. And so someone goes, oh, they get the biro out, A minor. Right? And then they went, oh, is that the second time through the verse or the chorus? Oh, the chorus. And then they go, oh. And then they put it over it. Because you'll notice that's why you've got a rubber. So bring your rubber. Okay, I think that's important. The last thing I'd like to say is, so we've already met, I've met George Harrison, I've met obviously George in the Ukulele. Is anybody here called George? Anybody here called Georgia? Okay, well, anyway, I haven't met them either. And but obviously George the first is George Formby, and I actually never met George Formby. And I degree, it's a bit of a shame, and so the degree of separation from people. But I've met someone who has met George Formby, and I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's Queen Elizabeth II. And when we played at the birthday party at Windsor Castle, she was very, very gracious, and there was one plate of biscuits for 37 people, and you don't do it for money, you do it because you are their subject, but you're basically, whoever the musical director is of your thing might get an MBE. So that's what it's like. But anyway, I actually dared, because you're not supposed to even speak to people when they walk along the line, and I actually said, I believe, Your Majesty, that you've met George Formby. And she says, yes, it shows how far I go back, doesn't it? So, again, amusing, very charming, and so on. So, unfortunately, my only one degree of separation from the Queen, George, is Queen Elizabeth II. So anyway, that's George I, George II, George III. Now, in this next activity, it's going to be a bit like when we were doing that strummy swayy thing. So, if you can't or don't want to participate, but also you might want to just sit down and do it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in fact, these go in pairs. You can see them, they're in pairs, and it's actually just pairs of things. Maybe get one pair per row, or what, and then pass it back. So a pair per row, and then pass that back. That's it. That's it. Then just get them dished out a little bit like that. And have a little look at them and see why you think I've given them to anybody. Yeah, and there's a couple just for each row. It doesn't really matter at the moment what you've got and so on. Now, these games where you have a party game and you're given a code. Let me borrow. Those people haven't got this one. And it doesn't matter. The reason I haven't, you'll see some of them. They've got ways. They've got words. Ace, face. Abba, gaga. Acme, dead. Bad, fake. Beaded bag. Cad. Alright? Why do you think, what are those words made of? Well, indeed they're made of probably actually musical notes, but what's it called? Cage. What's good about cage? If you wanted to play the word cage on a ukulele, how could you play it? How many hands do you need to play it?
None. You can just drop the ukulele.
Oh, that's very intelligent. Well, actually, you could use your nose because it's just the strings.
I keep one the uke in a car in the door, and when I slam the door, it plays cage.
Who can play? Can you play cage? No. You can. I've been banging on about playing open strings, not playing all the strings. So, and we also did that thing where you didn't have to use this hand at all. So can you play cage without using this hand?
Do you want all the letters or just strumming it in one go?
I want all the letters after each other.
Okay.
And do that again, please. Yep, it goes. So cage goes C, A, G, E. You don't need this hand, C, A, G, E. Way more commonly than B, then they actually call B flat B, and therefore they call B natural H. There you go. So therefore we can use H's. And the problem with it is the word bead is no different from the word head then, is it? Because we haven't got flats here, have we? But that's right. And the last ones you've got coda, coca and coed. Now of course that's actually C diminished, C-A. It's just another way of finding chord sequences. Like a lot of poets, and they would cut up words and just randomly do them and see whether it comes out looking like poetry. And obviously the way to get started on arranging things is, what are we going to play? What chords are we going to use? I mean, it's simplish chords. And of course with this, for instance, if you've got deadhead, who's interested in trying to make those chords deadhead, or chords or notes, we'll get on this, into something that sounds like the Grateful Dead? Yeah, you might do. There you go. For instance, and what about, and who would, what sort of music do you think Ace Face ought to sound like? Oh, it's more, isn't it? Small faces. So, but what I'd like you to do now, just the notes themselves, at the moment, just start off, there's the word gag, okay? There's the word gaga, there's the word abba, bed, bad, face, bag, cab. I want you to pick one of those tunes, but I want you to pick them randomly. I want people to do different ones on purpose next to each other, and so on. Okay, do you understand? Okay, so, and just pick one of those. Just pick one, and I want it to be a cacophony. I don't want it to sound nice. I want it to sound weird.
So can you do it as a chord rather than notes?
Oh, I see.